6, 2021, that was sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Two River Times, posted on the bulletin board and on the main access door of Township Hall, and filed in the clerk's office, and also posted on the township's website, www.holmdeltownship.com. Please be advised that the agenda for tonight's meeting is also available for download on the township website. Members of the public wishing to provide comment at the designated times may do so over the Zoom platform by clicking the raise hand button or by dialing *9 if accessing this meeting by telephone. Public commenters are asked to provide their name and address prior to comment and shall be limited to 3 minutes. Public comments may not include disruptive conduct such as profanity. Public commenters are reminded that this meeting is being live streamed over the internet, which will be archived on the Township YouTube and Facebook pages, and that recordings of the public meeting are public records subject to Open Public Records Act. Mayor Bontempo?
Here.
Ms. Weber?
Here.
Mr. Critelli? Is not here. Mr. Lucarelli?
Here.
Mr. Santana?
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Wendy, everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then please remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence to honor our troops both home and abroad who work tirelessly to protect us each and every day. Thank you. So the first order of business, typical fashion, is any public comment on agenda items. Please note that there'll be a hearing on all the ordinances tonight, so there'll be time for public comment on the ordinances that we're hearing tonight, but any public comment on agenda items only tonight.
And also, Mayor, I would note there's also a public hearing on the budget, so any budget questions could be handled at that time.
Yep, thank you.
There are no hands up at this time, Mayor.
With that, I'll close public comment. So we have consent agenda items, resolutions 2021-125 to 2021-135. Do I have a motion?
Move. Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Santana?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes, with a note.
Mayor Bontempo?
Yes.
So resolutions 2021-125 to 2021-135 have all been successfully passed.
Thank you, Wendy.
Welcome.
Next is a hearing, Wendy, on ordinance 2021-15.
Ordinance 2021-15, which is the ordinance of the Township of Holmdel, Monmouth County, State of New Jersey, to exceed the 2021 municipal budget appropriations limit and to establish a cap bank. NJSA 40A:4-45.14.
Thank you, Wendy. So we'll have a public hearing on ordinance 2021-15. Anybody from the public, Wendy?
No, sir.
Gary, I'm sorry.
There are no hands up at this time, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you both.
You're
Sorry.
welcome.
Close
okay.
public portion. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Santana?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo?
Yes.
Ordinance 2021-15 has been adopted and it will be published in the Asbury Park Press according to law. The next hearing is on ordinance 2021-17, which is an ordinance establishing section 26-9 titled Qualified Disabled Veteran Property Tax Exemptions.
So open up for public comments or questions on 2021-17. Carrie?
There are no hands up at this time, Mayor.
Okay. None being seen, I'll close public comment. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Santana?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo?
Yes.
Ordinance 2021-17 has been successfully adopted and will be published in the Asbury Park Press according to law.
Perfect. Thank you. Next, we have departments. Administrator?
Oh, you had to find the mute. I have no additional report tonight, but I'm happy to answer any questions that the Township Committee may have.
Cool. Thank you. To our CFO, Bill, I'll turn it over to you now.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight we have the public hearing on the 2021 budget. As you know, we introduced the budget on April 13th, and it was available on the website for the public to review and to tonight they can make any comments on the budget. Also, after that, we're going to have a proposed amendment to the budget. This amendment will add 3 grants that we got since the introduction of the budget: the recycling tonnage grant, You Drive, You Text, You Pay grant, and the Bay Shore DWI Saturation Patrol. That has no impact on the taxes at all. They're just offsetting revenues and appropriations for grants. After that, if we wish, we can adopt the budget.
Okay. The Finance Committee take a look at the budget, Committeeman?
Thanks, Mayor. Yes, the Finance Committee took a look at the budget and they have approved the budget. They're very happy with it. And I'd like to read a statement when it's appropriate from the Finance Committee. If it's now, I can read it now.
You can do it now.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. So this note is from the Finance Committee Chair, Zach Gilstein. So let me read the statement. The Holmdel Finance Committee reviewed the 2021 Holmdel Administrative Budget. We believe it represents the appropriate accounting of the anticipated revenues and expenses for 2021. We appreciate the diligence of Sharon Roundtree, the administrator, William Antonides, Chief Financial Officer, and their teams to formulate a budget that limits the tax increase to about 1.5%, underrunning the allowable tax cap by over $750,000 in the face of significantly rising pension costs and debt service costs. We also recognize the excellent work in seeking opportunities for shared services with other municipalities to help offset Holmdel costs. We believe the outline of the proposed capital projects, which will require separate approval, reflect the appropriate set of priorities for the township. We note that the tax rate has remained flat relative to 2020. The increases in taxes reflect increased total valuation of Holmdel properties. Finally, we want to recognize Sharon Roundtree and Bill Antonides for their transparency in answering the questions of the committee and ensuring a clear understanding of the budget process. Signed, Zach Gilstein.
Thank you, Committeeman. I appreciate that. And thank you for having a committee review the budget. And you have a lot of expertise on your committee, a lot of insight. So I agree. I think the leadership team at Town Hall has done a very good job helping put this budget together and get some of the things that we need to make this town function to support the residents, which is why we're here. Anything else from the TC before I open to the public? Cool. Carol, let's open any public hearing on the budget.
There are no hands up at this time, Mayor.
Okay. I'll close public comment. Do I have a motion for the amendment, correct, first?
Yes, the amendment.
Okay, motion for the amendment.
Move.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Santana?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo?
Yes.
Okay, so Resolution 2021-136, which is approving the amendment to the 2021 municipal budget, has been successfully passed.
Next is a resolution on the 2021 budget, correct?
Yes, it is to adopt the budget as amended.
Okay. Open it for public comment on the budget.
There are no hands up at this time, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll close public. Do I have a motion for to improve the adoption of 2020 municipal budget, 2021-37? Second,
Second.
roll call?
Mr. Lucarelli,
Yes.
Mr. Santana,
Yes.
Ms. Weber,
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo.
Yes.
Okay, resolution approving the adoption of the 2021 municipal budget has been approved.
Thank you. Thank you. Bill, anything else from you tonight?
No, I have nothing else, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Counselor, anything from your perspective?
Sure. Good evening, Mayor. I don't have any specific update, but one item for the committee's consideration. I spoke with the clerk and the administrator earlier today, and it came to our mutual attention that the June 8th Township Committee meeting is scheduled on the same evening as the primary election, which is a conflict for the clerk's office, which is obviously responsible for administering that election. So the recommendation was for the committee to consider canceling that meeting due to the conflict.
Do you have a motion to cancel?
Move.
Second.
Wendy, roll call, please, Wendy.
Mr. Lucarelli,
Yes.
Mr. Santana,
Yes.
Ms. Weber,
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo.
Yes.
I will notice that that meeting has been canceled. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Anything else, Counselor?
Nothing further, Mayor, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Engineer, Ben, any updates?
Nothing specific today, Mayor, but happy to answer any questions.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Ben. Boards and committees. Can we start this evening with the with Deputy Mayor?
Sure. So first of all, on behalf of the Traffic and Bike Safety Committee, I'd just like to let everyone know it's National Bike Month. If you follow us on social media, you would know that. It's going to be a beautiful weekend. I'll be out and about on my bike, and I hope to see you too, riding with a helmet and a bell on your bike. Two really good safety features. Also, I'd like to report out on the Recreation Committee meeting, which was held last Monday. Sports are back in the swing of things, literally. Baseball, softball, field hockey clinic, lots of things, lots of sports going on. And we also got a report from Bob Ward that the swim club is going great guns, and membership was, and this was a week ago, was at near pre-pandemic levels. So might even surpass that by now, which is great news to hear. And I'm looking forward to being at the pool club and hope I'll see everyone there starting Memorial Day weekend. We also had then news and reports from different groups, and the soccer clubs reported that the HFC, which was comprised of two different components, NJX and HFC, follow along if you can, that NJX is now moved to join the Princeton Soccer Academy. So they are no longer using Holmdel fields, which should free up a lot of our playing capacity and field capacity for future use. And that was the part of the club that was predominantly, was coached and paid professional trainers and coaches. So the HFC part is more volunteer coaches and more Holmdel kids. We then also heard from the Board of Ed that they have done a study on field usage at the high school and SATS complex and all their fields there. Unfortunately, it looks like they only did it Monday through Friday and didn't do weekend usage. But in any event, it was completed for fields on Monday through Friday. And where Pete Reddy said he was going to, that was presented to the Buildings and Grounds Committee, and he was going to ask Mr. Patrizzo to release that to Bob Ward and Sharon so that the committee can study the field usage at the high school and see where we might have synergies or opportunities there. A letter was read into the record from Preserve Holmdel. And then we talked about field usage and analysis. I presented the Township Committee's request to review the prior proposal that was done under Mayor Hines' tenure for a turf field and tennis courts up at the swim club. And the committee felt that they could not review and act on that in that short of time frame. And they would actually like to see all prior proposals, including I believe there was a $30 million T&M proposal and a subsequent proposal by Mazer, as well as anything on what was proposed with respect to the land swap. And the committee would really like to look at all the needs and make a comprehensive review and recommendation to the Township Committee. And then in other news, we learned that there was an Eagle Scout project done at Alaco Park, and they will be posting trail maps there. And there is a main sign at Cross Farm that says, field use by permit. And we're hoping that, and our ordinance we recently passed limiting groups to 10 without needing, that 10 or more require a permit, that will help with any conflicts in field uses. So that was the rec committee report. And that's all I've got.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kathy. Committeeman Lucarelli?
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing to report tonight. Thank you.
Committeeman Santana?
Thank you, Mayor. I have two updates. The first one, we have a planning board meeting next Tuesday where we'll be discussing the Barclay Square project. Just wanted the township to be aware of that. The second one is a community-wide effort that's going on right now. So you're probably aware of the horrific situation in India due to the pandemic. Over almost 1 million people have died and the number is climbing significantly. So people everywhere, including in our town, are eager to help. In fact, the Chinese Holmdel Association, Yufei Wang, reached out to me asking how their community could help with our effort to help the folks in India. So I'm currently arranging or scheduling a joint call with the Holmdel Chinese Association and the Holmdel India Association to coordinate our efforts so that everybody, and then when things firm up, I'd like to share it with the township. So anyone who is interested in helping the two communities, we're welcome to participate. All right, so just wanted to let the people know that there's a significant town-wide effort by these two communities to help the people in India right now.
Thank you, Committeeman.
Yeah.
Thank you. And very important, and thank you for being the focal point for people to help. I know we have a great community and a lot of people do want to get involved to help out others. So it's a great cause that you're taking on. Thank you. I have a few just updates. The vaccine rollout, as communicated recently, is continuing ongoing. It's the supply has increased where locally Bayshore Hospital in Holmdel is now taking walk-ins. So Monday to Friday, 9 to 1, you don't need an appointment. You can walk in and get your shot. And if you've had your second shot, if you had to travel down to Atlantic City, one of the mega centers, for your first shot, and you want to get your second shot here, they'll take you for your second shot. Just bring your card with you that you got when you originally got your first shot, so they can match up, make sure date's accurate, and they have a copy of what dose you have, so they can update your card with the dose that you get from Bayshore. Following up on that, we're starting to see a fairly sizable demand from students, mainly college, that are going to be either going for the first time or maybe returning to college. Maybe their freshman year has been a lot of remote learning this year, and going on campus. As some colleges are mandating that you're vaccinated before you return to college. So we're working with providers locally right now to be able to provide the Pfizer vaccine in Holmdel to any student that is going to want it. We'll have more information coming out very shortly, but just be aware that we're on it. We're trying to make it start very soon, so you have that 3-4 week window, whatever the spacing is, for the Pfizer vaccine to get your first dose and second dose before you head off to college, and could be as early as August. I know some colleges start early, so we're working on that right now. More information will be forthcoming from the town through our website, so please stay attention to that. If you so desire, need anything, we'll communicate it out, obviously, in our monthly newsletter, as well as we get more information. That is all I had tonight for an update. Do I have another update?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
On the COVID vaccine, just note that it is now, the Pfizer is now available for 12 and up, right? So previously 12 to 15-year-olds were not eligible, but they are now. And that is also available, I think it would walk in at Center State. I'm not sure about if Bay Shore is doing walk-ins for that age group as well. Although, reminder to all parents, if you're sending your minor, even if they can drive, an adult still has to be present. But getting our youth vaccinated will help tremendously in terms of all the activities that everyone wants to be able to fully return to, in terms of athletics and social events and so on. So that's my plug for that.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good stuff. There's a lot of proactive work being done by Sharon and everybody at Town Hall to help out in any way possible as the CDC guidelines continue to grow and allow testing and more people to be able to get vaccinated who choose to be vaccinated. So with that, done with the board updates, I will roll to any public comment. So public comment, similar format. If you've been on, if you haven't been on before, state your name, address, and then you have up to 3 minutes of speaking for your participation. And Wendy has gotten very good with Carrie on getting the clock. Thank you. Anybody in queue, Carrie?
The first public comment is J and R.
No, speak, say again.
Jenny Blumenthal, 41 Stony Brook Road in Holmdel. I have two questions. First, I noticed on the consent agenda that there was an approval to apply for a $100,000 grant to supply engineering and other services for improvements to Alaco Park. And I was curious as to what specifically you were planning on using the $100,000 for. We were up there today and the Jungle Jimmy stuff has not yet been installed. That's okay. My other question is a complaint. We've been at Bayonet Farm numerous times, and I am quite sickened to see that the lawnmower people who you just gave more work to than Offrio for mowing the dog park have gotten a little bit too carried away at mowing down the daffodils in a memorial garden adjacent to the Harding House. You just installed the new bench there for Sam Schramko, and the poor bench is now facing just a green lump with nothing on top of it, aside from a sign that said, "This is a memorial garden in memory of folks who were killed on 9/11 and since." The lawn has been, the daffodils were planted by volunteers who spent quite a lot of money doing it, and it was beautiful. And these unspeakable, stupid lawnmower folks have mowed down these daffodils at least 5 times and potentially twice this year, even while the flowers were in bloom. I find it a little hard to believe that these people could be so stupid as to not see flowers were in bloom. Is there anything that has been done to rectify this situation? That's it.
Thank you, Jenny. So Sharon, you want to touch on the engineering grant that we submitted for, and then to the landscapers don't know what the daffodils is it should not be happening. So can we get DPW out there to mark off areas that the lawnmower guys should not be cutting around or going near or going into? I mean, our volunteers do an amazing job and with helping to keep things nice, and it's frustrating hearing that's occurring. Kathy?
Yeah, so Sharon, let me just add something to that. I am personally willing to install the little, whatever it is, 18-inch white picket fence, around the edge of the daffodil bed to make it clearer that is a flower bed and not to be mowed, if that is helpful, because I went and enjoyed that bench and those daffodils, and I'm actually devastated to hear that.
So I did hear, this was the first time that I had heard that the daffodils might have been mowed over. The first time that I'm hearing that it happened previously. I did hear about this time. We did reach out to the company. It was a new employees. Apparently these companies are having a difficult time with turnover right now. And I agree. I have no idea how someone can see daffodils and mow over them. We did reach out to the company. We expressed our displeasure. We've been assured it won't happen again. The idea of adding some sort of barrier is a great idea. We can look into that. So that's where we are with the daffodils. Broke my heart too. As it relates to the grant, just to clarify, the grant was for engineering costs associated with any improvements that might happen at the swim club. This grant is a brand new grant. It's never been issued before, and it seems to be highly competitive. But so the chances of us getting it aren't that great, but the chances of us getting it if we don't apply are zero. So we wanted to work on it. We know that there are improvements that need to be done at this swim club. And the benefit of this grant, which is very unusual, it allows for some of the engineering costs and the soft costs, and many grants don't do that. And so that's why we applied for that. Again, it's a long shot, and it's further down the line in the future, but we want to actually get the grant application in. And as you know, we're currently working on the study on what needs to be done at that facility. So this will, if we get it, this will help complement that study.
I think it's great that that we're taking initiative to apply for grants. We have, as you said, if we don't apply, we're never going to get anything. It's worth applying for as many as we can, and so we can get if we can help do more things with the town with grants. 100% behind it, Sharon.
Thank you. We have a couple more that I just found out about. So in the next couple of meetings, you might see a couple more applications.
Good. Thank you. Kerry?
The next public comment is TJ Mann.
Hi, Thomas Mann, 7 Jennifer Drive. Just wanted to talk about...
You on speaker, you're very hard to hear.
Is it any better if I do that, Mayor? I apologize.
You're just just very echoey. It's very like reverberating. It's almost like you're in a tunnel with a speaker.
Is that any better?
Good. I'm sorry. Good. Just go on.
Okay. Thomas Mann from 7 Jennifer Drive. Just wanted to reiterate the need for a turf field, another turf field here in Holmdel. As a youth lacrosse coach, we've had a number of practices and games have to be rescheduled this year and in years past because of the weather. And I wanted to bring up an analysis done by Committeeman Santana, who said that the cost of a field would be less than 0.5% of the current budget. I want to allow for roughly 33% of our kids who are members of HYAA, and that doesn't include football players, to use that proposed facility. And I wanted to see when we can expect to have a turf field put on the agenda.
You have any more questions, Thomas, before we cut?
No, that's it. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So, so we touched on it in the last meeting. The deputy mayor is running the liaison to the recreation committee. One of the discussions the recreation committee had on their last meeting, which was between tonight and the meeting, their prior meeting 2 weeks ago, was on turf field, multi-purpose field I think it's finding a location, and there are other recreation needs they're looking at as well as this. But I think they're probably maybe 3.5 months into meetings. So I would expect something in the near future with a recommendation coming back with a laundry list of items of which could include turf, could include tennis courts, could include basketball courts, could include other things as well. So stay tuned. We'll certainly advertise it and allow public input on it. Nothing definitive yet, but I know they are working on it and are going to be pulling more documents and seeing what work was done previously, not to create additional expenses, but maybe try to reuse some of the work that was done before, or maybe come up with a new location. I think there's a lot of things at play between the potential land swap that our administrator is working on with the county, potentially using that location, potentially using one of the other township-owned locations. I think they're looking at a lot of things and trying to see what's best for best location, and then we can go about looking to see how we can get the funding to support whatever initiatives that they recommend we employ. Did I cover that, Deputy Mayor? Okay.
Yeah, I would just add that one of the things we're doing is trying to gather input on field usage. So we don't have that data yet. We need to get all that information from the user clubs and from the Board of Education to really determine what the actual need is. And what we're trying to do is define the problem and then come up with a solution. And the solution might be multifaceted because the question is, who needs turf? Why do they need turf? And when do they need turf? And what turf do we already have? And do some people need lights that can play on real grass? Do we need 2 turf fields? We don't really know unless we do a comprehensive assessment. And in addition to that, we have to look at the other recreational needs in the town. We currently have no township tennis courts available. The Board of Ed has some courts, but the township has none. And we have needs for basketball, and we certainly have needs for the swim club, which was built in the 1970s and has been held together literally, I think, with chewing gum and baling wire, and is in need of attention. So we're going to be looking at all of these things and trying to make a thorough, comprehensive proposal that meets the needs of all of our residents. So we're working on it. It's going to take us a little while. I mean, while we have had several meetings this year, we're just now starting to get to this issue. So it's going to be a few more months. It's not going to be tomorrow, but the committee is engaged and working on it, and has all the different recreation groups are represented.
Thank you, Kathy. Carrie?
The next public comment is Jay Yanello.
Jay Yanello, 18 Ladwood Drive. Ms. Weber, I hope the analysis will include a 7-day-a-week look at the needs of the various sports groups. I think you said some of the data that came in was for during the week. Obviously, the weekend usage is relevant. Some may be heavier users than others. Mayor Bontempo, thank you so much throughout this pandemic for everything you've done as far as testing, vaccine distribution. Your comments tonight from you and Ms. Weber were very interesting about the ability to walk in. I just want you to know CVS's around here are wildly open for Pfizer vaccines. We just got notified that my daughter's college is going to require it. At 10 p.m. last night, we had wide open calendars at CVS to get the Pfizer vaccine for her, and we got one today. So you may want to consider just polling. The CVS seems to be doing it better than anyone else. It's seamless, it's app related, it's extremely impressive, and their stock price is actually reflecting it. But I just wanted you to know the CVS's around here are wildly open for Pfizer capacity. Thank you.
Yeah, so in conversations the administrator and I have been having with people, it's it's the Pfizer is just a little more challenging than the Moderna because of the temperature requirements of keeping it at sub-zero temperatures. So we're able to actually talk to multiple providers that are willing to work with us to have the Pfizer vaccine available for our youth in the town. And we will have more information. We may have multiple people to work with, but I think the hospital is just an easy one, and having, Monday to Friday, 9 to 1 hours to be able to walk in was a good start. They realize that that's not going to work for our youth because they're still in school right now. So they're going to have to amend their hours or work with us on a registration program. But the administrator and her staff are on it, and we will have something out to the public shortly, because I know, listen, it's a lot of people are apprehensive, going off to college, let alone having this mandate thrust upon you. And I don't know when the colleges are going to require you to provide proof before you get to college as well. So that's why we're starting it now. So well before you need to leave, you'll have your 2 shots in and your card verifying that you received your vaccine. So so we're starting it now, and information will be out in very shortly on the program and how we're going to help our the residents with that. Thank you. Carrie?
The next public comment is Karen Strickland.
Good evening, Karen Strickland, 26 Hayward Hills Drive. I was also going to mention the daffodils, and so I'm very happy if you try to do something about, mowers should be penalized for destroying those beautiful flowers. And that brings me to the Bayonet Farm issue, is that we have 3 historic house properties in Holmdel, which maybe going after grants. We could maybe start going after some grant money to try to do something to preserve these houses. They have to be open, they have to be used. And it would be really nice if we could start figuring out a way to protect them, because they are beautiful. And so I just wanted to bring them back up into our consciousness. And 2 more. I've been listening to this conversation on the turf, and I think we should change our vocabulary a little bit to say artificial turf or synthetic turf, or talk about grass fields, because I think there's a big difference. I can advocate and support building a grass field for our kids in town, but artificial turf has very big environmental impacts and also health issues for our kids. When my older kids would come home from playing on Rogie Field, there would be little plastic pellets all over the place. They would take off their clothes and the bathroom floor would be covered with them. My kids were high schoolers and that would be okay, but I sure wouldn't have wanted any of my 7, 8, or 9-year-olds playing on artificial turf. And then the other issue is the Human Resources Committee. I really applaud you guys for having put together a Human Resources Committee. And I am so disappointed when I heard last meeting that the the committee couldn't get together an agreement to present a report. And it seems to me that that disagreement reflects what the reality in our town is. And the reality in our town is that we have a lot of fighting to do to change ourselves from being, I don't want to be strong language. Anyway, we have a lot of work to do to become anti-racist. And I was kind of disappointed in the inability of the group to come out with a report. So anyway, thank you for going after grants for important things in our town. And let's think about grass fields. And that's all. Thank you.
Yes. So on the daffodil comment, if you see something, please email us immediately, email me immediately, mayor@holmdeltownship.com, and just say, hey, I just saw this, bring it to my attention. We'll get it resolved. You don't have to wait for a meeting, please, because 2 or 3 lawnmower cuttings could take place between when you saw it, between our space in our meetings. So just let us know immediately. I also was advised by another resident recently about the maintenance on some of the homes at at Bayonet. So something that we need to look at seriously. I mean, having the open space, having Bayonet Farms is a huge asset for the town. We don't want these houses to get to a point where disrepair and they cannot be repaired. So yeah, that's something that I'm not sure we're gonna have much room in this year's budget, but it's something we need to do and look at very closely this year so we can properly budget for it going forward. We're fortunate to have this land, and we need to take care of the property that's on the structures and buildings that are on there. Thank you. Carrie?
The next public comment is Mike Sockel.
Mike, you on mute?
Sorry, I was on mute. Mike Sockel, 6 Wild Hedge Lane. Quick question. I got in a little late in the meeting and I wasn't sure where we are. Is this the opening public comment, or have we moved into budget yet?
This is the closing of the meeting.
Oh, okay. So I'll make a comment then now. You know, I know over the last couple of years, I basically have said the same thing. And, you know, unfortunately, the best definition of insanity is saying the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. I've mentioned multiple times, and I'll speak here as a resident and not as the vice president of the school board, but just as a resident, that we have offered multiple times the opportunity to provide tax savings to the public if we could get access to the pilot money so that we would be able to return that money back to our residents. And we're not talking about thousands of dollars. We're talking not 10,000s of dollars. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. But once again, there seems to be an inability to pursue that course. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit. You know, the pilot has been a concept for over 10 years, almost 10 years now. And yet we've seen no effort by this body. And when I use the term body, I mean it in a general sense, not just the folks who are on right now, but over the last 10 years, there's been no effort to go to the community and have a plan of how we're supposed to be using these tens of millions of dollars that still remains a little secretive to most people and represents commercial tax revenue. And because it's commercial tax revenue, could be used to reduce residential taxes. And so I really would urge this body, the particular body that we have in place, or the planning board, or some governing entity, to go to the public, to get input from the public, and to determine a plan of how we should use this money, so that we're not just spending it on a, you know, year by year basis, or plugging holes with it, or as one member of the current committee once referred to it as a slush fund. And I don't say that in a nefarious way. I just mean it's money sitting there that doesn't seem to have purpose, direction, or being used in such a way that it's going to solve problems for this town from a wide variety of different issues. So that would be my main request of this particular committee. Let's sit down as a community and figure out how we're going to spend this pilot money over the next 25 years, or what's left of it. Thank you for your time.
So let me touch on the pilot money. The pilot money, I think we started receiving it in 2018.
Right.
Bill?
18, correct.
2018. So it has not been consistent. There's been some variables that we've been faced with due to the way the original redevelopment agreement was written and what the revenue is based on. The town receives approximately, Community Santana, 17 cents of the dollar that people spend on taxes. Board of Ed receives about 66% accurate. So,
right.
Yeah, so we are working with approximately almost 25% of the budget the school board has to manage with. So we do a lot of services for the town. We have a 24/7 police force, emergency services that are the backbone of this community. So if we get to a point where we have funds in excess of what we need to run the town, we will most certainly look to do it. But unless you come with a specific need and not just come back with, I want money, there's nothing to discuss regarding it. I think that if you were in a bind, we would actually have a conversation, but I actually haven't seen that yet. And I've heard about comments made. Listen, the people on the township committee aren't going anywhere. Our books are very open and we're very transparent, and we look to keep the taxpayers' services intact and keeping the budget as flat as possible, and we'll continue to do so. So the pilot hopefully starts to generate some additional income in years to come as this pandemic slowly fades. And at that point in time, hopeful that there are things that we can benefit the entire town, not just one particular area. Committeeman Santana from Finance, anything you want to say?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mayor. So at the risk of being insane, I too have repeated multiple times exactly the amounts that we have received from the pilot in multiple meetings. And I've also stated, I think it was the last meeting when I stated that given the pandemic, we are operating out of our, based on the 2019 audit of Bellworks books. So if in the event they don't meet that number, we'll have to return money back. So there's a lot of volatility. So there is no fixed money coming in, fixed revenues coming in for the pilot. So it's still what should I say, a guesswork at this point. As I said, we received a total of $4 million in 2019, and out of which 1.62 was Toll Brothers, and 2.38 million was from Bellworks, which accounted for 50% of their capacity. So there's nothing, we're not having we don't have a secretive slush fund, and there's a lot of volatility. At this point, it's too premature to discuss how we can start sharing it and use that money for other things. Thank
And
you.
also, I've been, people have commented, residents have commented about how unhappy they were about the Board of Ed raised taxes $1 million during the pandemic when the schools were closed, right? So I think we need to give the residents more oversight into how their money is being spent. So that'll be discussed, I think, in future. This is not going away because you can't keep raising taxes on the residents. It's not fair to them. Kerry?
Mayor, can I just make a comment there? Just two things real quick. I just wanted to correct, I think Prakash made a comment that the pilot money, that it's not a fixed income. There's a lot of variables to it, but the residential part of that is a fixed income. I know we collect $1.5 million from the residential part of that a year, and that's not variable to mine. At least that's what Bill had told me. And I think what Mr. Sacco was getting at, again, and I'm not advocating for the Board of Ed or for us, I mean, I'm not getting involved in that at all, but to his point, I think what he was saying, at least what I gathered, was that that there should be maybe more of a plan on how that money is spent, and that maybe the community should have a little bit of feedback in there. And I guess the one comment that I would make is obviously pre-2018, before we had pilot revenue coming in, we balanced the budget, right? So I guess I think what I'm gathering with his comment is that if we had a budget prior to the pilot funds, and now we've added revenue from the pilot funds, where is that money going? What is it being spent for? And I don't think it's a bad thing to have, to have more discussion about how those funds are spent in, now and in the future when it's a little bit more stable. So I don't think that's a bad thing. Thank you.
It's definitely not a bad thing, but we all know in today's budget how that money is being spent. That 1.62 million that I mentioned from Toll Brothers We all know how it's being spent because it's part of the budget presentation. And to me, the issue is we're not in a position to share it beyond our requirements, meaning the municipal requirement at this time. If and when we get to a point where we see a steady stream of revenues that exceeds our budget requirements, then clearly we could be sitting down and talking with how best to spend that money.
And agreed, if we don't spend it first, but I agree. I agree with you.
And the balanced budget years before the pilot, there were years, if you go back, that there was no road program, there was no road improvements. The town started to deteriorate significantly. There was no investment in the town, and that hurt the town, right? Because decisions were made to not spend money to try to keep the budget flat, and we've been playing catch up ever since. I think last year was the largest road improvement that we've ever done. I think it was like 12% of the roads were paved, which is almost unprecedented for this town. So yeah, things were done, but there was no investment in the community. I don't think we want to go back that way, because then you're going to have people safety issues. As I was, the administrator and I were out 2 weeks ago with a neighbor who was having issues with the roads, checking out what's going on, and they weren't paved that long ago. So it's a lot of money, and I actually think that 1.5 million is light, but I get we need to balance the budget. I'd like to do more for roads, but taking everything into consideration, I think it's probably the best amount to use for the time being. But hopefully in the future we could do more and get ahead of this rather than always playing catch up with our roads and sidewalk and curb repair.
And the firehouse and all the fire paraphernalia.
Yeah, we had a fire truck that was neglected for 25 years. 25 years. No one took any time and invested anything in emergency services. And this town has grown year over year over year. So it's gotten bigger and more complicated. So, Carrie?
The next public comment is Chris Briamonte.
Good evening, Chris Briamonte, 30 Falcon Ridge Circle, Holmdel, New Jersey, with a note. Deputy Mayor, is just curious, you mentioned during the rec meeting last week that a letter was read into the record from, I believe it's Preserve Holmdel. I was wondering if you could just give us a synopsis of what that letter said.
Chris, go through all your questions or comments, and then we'll comment at the end, just so you don't lose your time.
I just wanted to answer that, man.
That's it?
Well, I don't know. Depending on what she says, I may have another comment.
Do you have that letter available?
Who, me? No, I don't.
No,
It's the
no.
first I heard of it was tonight. Yeah.
I'm looking for it. Hold on. I don't have it right in front of me.
Is there anything else you have while she's looking for it?
Okay. I
No,
found
that's it, Mayor.
Okay.
It's a letter from Preserve Holmdel to the Recreation Committee. And
Dated when? Dated when?
April 26th.
Okay.
It's to clarify Preserve Holmdel's position on open space and conservation. It's requesting that the 115 acres at Cross Farm that is not currently on the Rossi be put into Rossi, as well as, Cross Farm Park and land of Bayonet Farm in particular. It says Preserve Holmdel's never been opposed to recreation and sports, but we continue to be adamantly opposed to artificial turf and permanent lighting at Cross Farm Park and at the field by Village School because of the proximity to homes and backyards. And let's see, it says the 2018 recreation survey, and I'm just paraphrasing here because it's a rather lengthy letter. The 2018 recreation survey completed by Holmdel Townships indicates the majority of the residents want more passive recreation, such as walking, biking, and hiking. And the town should focus on more of those services. And that notwithstanding, should this town decide to invest in more lighting and artificial turf, It should be placed in an environmentally safe area in the central part of town for all Holmdel children, et cetera, and so on. So that's the gist of the letter.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Is there anything else, Chris?
That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
The next public comment is Joe Crowley.
Joe Crowley, 15 Ely Road. So regarding the efforts of the rec committee and the deputy mayor on investigating the recreation needs in turf field included in that, I want to acknowledge the thoroughness, the engagement, and the efforts on that. I do want to point out that it sounded like Mayor Bontempo said that we could expect something soon, and that the deputy mayor commented that it wouldn't be soon, might be a few months or something to that effect. And which leaves me a little confused, but more to the point, I believe that the deputy mayor has been engaged with the rec committee for at least a few months now, and I'm not sure. So if I'm wrong with that, I apologize. But what strikes me as missing in this is a plan that I mean, we had. This just would seem to call for a project plan, which would identify steps and deliverables, such things as what are the needs and when will they be identified. And I understand that we might not have the answers, but we ought to be able to have a plan that says we'll have needs identified by this date. We will have dependencies on things we don't control identified by this date. We will have field usage identified by a certain date. Identifying when funds will be previously allocated funds, when they will be identified if they're available. I think that that's to make progress, you need a plan. I will also point out that the comment of I know there's a comprehensive approach here, but perfection can be the enemy of progress. And so what I'd like to do is ask for the mayor and the deputy mayor to commit to produce a plan at the next meeting, not an answer, but a plan so we can know what to expect. Finally, I'll point out that while there are health concerns with turf fields, there are health concerns with grass fields as well when chemicals are used to treat them. And there are costs to turf fields, but there's costs to grass fields in terms of maintaining them, watering them, cutting them, and a lot of lost opportunity time. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. So, so the deputy mayor is a liaison to the recreation committee. If she needs any assistance from me, she can certainly ask. I'm not going to step into her area that she's responsible for right now. And I think that the plan that she's put together is fairly comprehensive. She's trying, before she spends taxpayer dollars, which could be in the millions of dollars, she wants to do a thorough analysis, because although, you know, it's going to be used by a lot of the youth, it's going to be paid for by every resident in the town. So I think she's just trying to be very conscientious of spending money and making sure that we're going to, it's the best plan with the team she has right now to put forth. And I think that once she gets a plan and gives it to the township committee, we can look at it, we can have a public discussion on it and decide what makes the most sense for the town and for the residents and what's going to meet our needs now and hopefully for many years to come. So I've been involved in this for a long time, and I think she has a good grasp on what she's trying to get accomplished and the way she's going about doing it. Deborah, I don't know if you want to say anything else.
Yeah, I just want to add that this is not my project plan. I am simply the liaison to the recreation committee. and that working in government is different from working in private industry. And unfortunately for all of us that work in government, the wheels turn much slower. And partly because we're dependent on getting information and resources from people that we have no control or authority over. So for instance, we're waiting to get information from the Board of Education. We're waiting to get on field usage. We're waiting to get information from all the user groups on their field usage. And, you know, we're dealing with volunteers in many cases. So they get us the information when they get us the information. Bob Ward is our recreation director, and he is the point person on this and the one responsible for collecting that information and presenting it to the committee. And then the committee will look at that and review it along with the various other options that have been looked at in the past. And simultaneously, there's plans being developed for the swim club. And we need to look at that as well too, because there are potential synergies here. And one of the questions that we're going to try to answer first is, you know, what are the needs? Not what is the solution? You know, the solution, I keep hearing people telling me what the solution is. And they're like, the solution is a turf field and lights. But I haven't heard anyone really spell out what's the needs and what's the problem, because there may be multiple ways to address those that better meet the needs of each organization and the township at large. So that's exactly what we intend to do. But this is not like my day job where I can take control of it and I can set up a project plan and execute it, because this is government and it's messy, but we're involving the community and the citizens. So that's why I think it will not happen overnight. And the rec committee, you know, meets once a month. So we're working on it, and hopefully by our next meeting, we'll have all that information. But, you know, we'll see. So, but we're on it, and it's the committee's work. It's not mine.
Thank you. Carrie?
The next public comment is Brian Mancini.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, Ryan Mancini, 26 Hawthorne Ave in Holmdel. I just wanted to ask about the incentive program for the fire department. I know it's been a few years since it was discussed with the town council, and I'm just wondering how close we are to getting something in place to grow our membership, which is desperately needed, and reward our current members for everything they do for our town with the 100% volunteer department. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. I don't have any updates on that right now. Commander Santana?
Yeah, so if you remember, I was a big proponent of getting an incentive program for the firefighters. But if you remember at the
all volunteers, all volunteer first responders, correct? Not just fire.
I'm sorry, all volunteer first responders. At the budget meeting, it wasn't a budget meeting, it was a budget planning meeting that we had sometime back. I can't remember. Sharon, you can help me. There was some, I thought was.
Okay, it was the workshop in the beginning of February.
Thank you. So during the workshop in the beginning of February, when we asked, I asked the question, do we have information on how best would an incentive program help us get more volunteers for the fire group? And I think it was Lieutenant Darcy who said that they don't have data showing any correlation. And unfortunately, we need information to be able to support support an incentive program like that. So without any information, we can't just throw money at a program hoping that we'd get more volunteers. So our goal right now in speaking with the fire chief and others.
1 second.
I just want to mention that this committee did focus a lot on fire this year with planning to purchase a new ladder truck for the fire department. We're under construction for the fire building. And we also have, in this budget that you just passed tonight, have funded the fire department significantly higher than we have in previous years as part of that analysis of looking at all of the requests of the fire department. This township committee has done quite a lot for them this year.
Correct. And we're not stopping. It's just that, as I said before, it's a balancing act right now, and we are balancing a lot of needs. There's a lot of needs that I wanted to do this year that aren't in the budget because we just don't have the funds to do it. So thank you for bringing it to our attention. It's continue to be something that we talk about moving forward. Carrie?
There are no new hands up at this time, Mayor.
Okay, cool. I will close public comment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.